as well, the reply to their response or in that particular series of filings. It's in there, and again, we can polish that up. There is, again, there's a recorded interview and a recorded statement that we certainly can provide to Your Honor for review, that ultimately we believe they're statements of the defendant, of course, that we believe would be admissible under the theories as argued there.
And what is the state's theory of admissibility of the roadside shooting?
Yes, sir, Your Honor. As we argued back in December, and as argued in those particular briefs, what we see is a chain of circumstances that are connected for an extended period of time that particularly highlight and start in June 7th. We've gone into, obviously, Your Honor, moving into the financial situation as it went into July, and the efforts to shore up that particular money, the loans. Mr. Birney testified to that today. But of course, Mr. Murdaugh, there's already been evidence admitted that he was $192,000 short, and that Chris Wilson covered that. The evidence goes on that in that particular interim of time, and again with the state's theory, that he's able to do his best to try to cover things up in that interim period. But then everything comes to a head, as already been testified to, in September 4th. Chris Wilson, of course, has also already testified that particular day, on September 4th, that he finally got the defendant to agree to meet with him and confronted him about that 192, which again is right at the heart of the Ferris fees, which are right at the heart of June 7th, 2021. And had that confrontation with him. The admissions that were made have already been testified to, and then with a short period of time in response to that, that the side of the road shooting happened. You've already heard testimony here from Ms. Proctor that, of course, the initial reaction of everyone is, oh my gosh, the real killers are back. And that's precisely, under the state's theory, the effect that the defendant intended. And there will be, from these recorded statements, ultimately evidence offered that was not true, and he had told lies, Your Honor, about that particular. And that would be the recorded statement that we would offer about when he admitted that he had been untruthful to law enforcement about the circumstances of that shooting. I don't intend to go into great detail about that. I'm just trying to get from point A to point B and then get out. I'm not trying to use the term that I've used before, gild the lily.
The statement that you referenced, that you say you want to put in a recorded statement?
That's correct, Your Honor. Yes, sir.
What's the length of that recorded statement?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's less than 15 minutes, Your Honor.
No, it's longer than that. No more than 30. Mr. Griffin and I were there when he gave the recorded statement. We called them to give the recorded statement.
And the gist of the recorded statement is what, Mr.
Your
Harper?
Honor, okay, so Mr. Murdaugh had somebody shoot him in the head on the roadside to have a $10 or $12 million insurance policy paid to his son Buster. Now, he believed it was suicide contestability cause, so he had somebody shoot him in the head. No question they shot him in the head. No question the intent was to kill him. He fractured his skull, had a brain bleed, was airlifted to Savannah Hospital. It didn't kill him. He intended to die. And the recorded statement, he immediately went to detox because he was planning to go to detox anyway. Mr. Griffin and I went down to Atlanta. We met with him in detox. He'd been through a horrible experience, shot in the head, and then detox. And we informed him the police were looking for whoever shot him. And he, at that point, said, look, this is what happened. And I don't want them wasting, and literally he said, I don't want them wasting resources trying to solve this shooting when those resources could be used to find who killed Maggie and Paul. We picked up the phone. We called SLED. We put him on the phone with SLED to have him explain exactly what happened. This wasn't a result of a SLED interrogation. This was a voluntary statement. So they quit wasting resources looking for and he told them who shot him in the head, and a guy named Eddie Smith, who was his drug dealer. So that's...
And you all have brought his name up a couple of times through cross-examination.
Yes.
Is he on the state's witness list?
Yes, Your Honor. But, Your Honor, one aspect of that, and I think this is what highlights the relevance and the connection with this particular case, is that in the wake of the side-of-the-road shooting, Mr. Murdaugh's initial claim was that some unknown individual had a flat tire, and some unknown individual, supposedly under the guise of stopping for help, then suddenly shot him in the head. He went so far as to draw have a composite artist to draw a composite photograph. Again, I'm not trying to get into too much with the detail, but that, of course, the immediate effect of that is that he's been targeted by some unknown individual. That was a complete lie, and that's the point of that statement.
If the issue here is that Mr. Murdaugh lies, I mean, really, are we at that? I mean, we've come $10 million through lies, and now this piece of evidence becomes relevant because it proves he lied again months after the murder. There's no, he didn't do it, and I think they will concede he didn't do it to get some sort of sympathy. He did it to be dead. That's why he did it. And unfortunately, Eddie Smith, at 4 feet, couldn't shoot somebody in the head and kill him. He meant to.
And that's what Mr. Smith would say?
Mr. Smith is given no less, I'm set up to cross-examine him, I know this, 6 different explanations for that and any other event you ask him about, from wasn't there to I was there and I saw Alec, he'd been shot, to I was there and I tried to stop Alec, to yes, I shot him in the head. But the fact of the matter is the cross-examination of Mr. Smith is something I'm looking forward to now. But this particular event had nothing to do with what happened on June 7th, other than he lied about something else. And 404, unless there's a specific, it's not motive. I mean, I don't understand what the 404, 403 analysis would be on this. I know what the 403 analysis is. The prejudice outweighs the probative. The 404 is what of the 4 things that 404 is admitted for, which one is this?
Your Honor.
I know you all want to argue it in the morning, so this is just a prelude to tomorrow morning.
2 things. 2 things. If Mr. Harpootlian wishes to stipulate in front of the jury that his client is a liar, the state's willing to accept that stipulation.
And not go forward with this?
The second thing is, Your Honor, is that what actually happened on the side of the road is not what's important to this particular case. What is important, Your Honor, is that it's in reaction to the confrontation with Chris Wilson about the fares fees that came to the head on June 7th, 2021, and it's about what the defendant said, that he was attacked by an unknown assailant as he was trying to change a tire, and went so far as to do a composite drawing, and it created the effect, as this investigation had gone on, that, oh my gosh, the real killers are back to finish the job. And that's precisely what he intended, and he ultimately admitted that was a lie. So the circumstances of what happened on the side of the road are not what the state is focused on. What is important is what the defendant said, how he attempted to use that, and that it was actually a falsehood. And you heard Ms. Proctor testify, it had that exact effect, that, oh my gosh, the real killers are back.
But I think the state will concede his object on the side of the road was to be dead. That's what the act was, to kill himself. Now, what happened after that? After he was taken to Savannah and had a brain bleed and a fractured skull, and when he came out of all that and realized, I'm not dead. How is that relevant to June 7th? Your Honor, we can beat this dead horse a little bit more in the morning, but allow us to give you, I don't know, this crazy idea of giving maybe some more law to look at.
All right. Is this the sole purpose of Mr. Smith's testimony, or you have other things to talk with him about?
Well, he's on the witness list. I didn't say necessarily that we're calling him. What I'm trying to do, again, is to limit the presentation to just what's relevant to this particular trial that we have here today.
Witness,
And so I would
we're talking, discussing now this motion excluding testimony, but who's your witness to talk about what you're arguing?
We would have a law enforcement witness come in and testify as to the circumstances of that statement. And again, I'm trying to limit it to what's very focused to what's relevant to this trial, and that is the intended effect that he had and its reaction to the confrontation and the symmetry between June 7th and September 4th.
And do you have anything in addition to what you all provided a couple of months ago, seemingly?
We have those two documents. We don't have a written document prepared at this time, but we can certainly work on some additional discussion this evening, Your Honor.
All right. Okay, well, we'll reconvene at 9:30.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, very good.